This week on Vice, we see firsthand the results of Saudi Arabia's ongoing air campaign in Yemen.
Everything has been hit and burned, every single shot.
And then the ongoing battle for LGBT rights in America.
Can you understand how a gay couple coming in here would feel discriminated against?
Americans have the right to live according to their faith.
This is our time to take America back.
In Season 2, we profiled the Houthi rebel group that now controls huge parts of Yemen. Today, Saudi Arabia, which is one of America's most important allies in the region, is trying to eradicate these rebel strongholds, but a report from the United Nations that recently came to light accuses them of targeting civilians in a quote-unquote widespread and systematic manner. So we went back to Yemen to see how Saudi Arabia's ongoing bombardment is affecting the country.
So we're just on the roof of a building in the old town. So we're just going to see what it's like to be in Sana'a for one night of Saudi airstrikes. It's been going on for 6 months. 30,000 roughly casualties so far, of those 5,000 deaths. It's almost always something in the air, but you just can't tell what. So there's the aircraft gunfire coming up here. Two airstrikes so far. Here comes another one. And you can just imagine having a family here and having, kids who have to sit through this every night knowing that someone or something is going to get hit. And the strikes we've seen tonight are close to one of the most densely populated parts of Sana'a. The next day, we went to see houses in the old city that had been hit. So we've come to see the site of a recent strike, and as soon as we turned up, there's a fighter jet above us somewhere, which has made everyone very scared and nervous. Most people have actually just left. We met a man, Mujahid Al-Aini, whose brother, Hafdullah, was killed with his entire family when his home was struck. Describe what you saw when you came here.
فوق السنتين شيولات وهكذا وجينا بنسحب الانقاض من فوقهم وكانوا معنا في الطرح السفلي في اسفل البيت كلهم ماتوا. مسكين كان يبيع له بضاعه وضماطيس وبيعه وهكذا لا ولا متحجب.
The conflict has forced over 2.5 million people to flee their homes. So people have said that after 6 months of this bombing, parts of Yemen look like Syria did after years. We spoke to Ali Gail Massar, who showed us what was left of his house. Do you know how many people were killed in this area altogether?
من السكن 5 والباقي 40 في الشارع. آخر ضربة قبل 5 أيام وأنا نوم هنا.
This is where you used to sleep? It's your bed? Sleep?
No.
Yeah.
بقينا 20 سنة ويتجمع ابن البيت فروا ما في أنا عندي البيت تافر.
How do you feel about the planes flying every night?
ايوه افتجع وارجع اقلسه يعني افعلها كذا وارجع طبيعي.
ايش عندنا بوم؟ ايش تخلي يضرب انا ايش في؟
Anyone unlucky enough to live in the areas now under Houthi control can become a target. The next day, we heard about airstrikes against a wedding party on the Red Sea coast. We just turned up to a village where there was an airstrike yesterday, or 3 airstrikes, we think. And there's a quite low-flying jet above us. And we've been here 5 or 6 days, and we've been used to jets above us every day and night. But this is actually pretty fucking terrifying. And they're scared as well, obviously, because of what they experienced yesterday.
هذا الشجر بينه مليان لحم عدو. الباقي رجول وباقي يدات باقي.
Oh yeah, and there's a Piece of skull with a lot of hair still on it, burnt. The women came here after the men were hit.
أقول في ناس ضموا عندهم جلسة دخل اسمها ضربة صاروخ جلسوا في مكان واحد.
So the blast was direct where people were.
كذا ثانية عاوز كذا وكذا عاوز صاروا.
Another jet coming in. Another one?
ثانية.
This man wants to take us to a house just here, and he says a large piece of shrapnel came and killed the woman inside.
أنا عندهم أمي حصلنا ميت قطع وبنيها ولد وبنت. شوف.
He's saying his mother was killed by a piece of flying shrapnel. A big piece of shrapnel came, hit the wall here. And as he's telling that story, there's another jet overhead.
واصل ليل مع نهار أطفال مجانين نحن كبار مجانين من حق الطيرة ليل ما ننامش أطفال يبكون يصيحون هلا ندور سياسة ونحن ولا نشتي سياسة خلونا نرتاح بس.
For some, the bombs have reduced their family members to random pieces of flesh and bone.
لا سمك التلفون بس يعني وطفت عجيرة يا حلو أم والدتي وخيتي وقريبة لها كله قتلفون الله شيء يصير في الرحمة الرحمة السعودية.
To be fair, when the Houthis have been trying to capture new ground, they too have shelled civilian areas indiscriminately and used landmines when they retreated. They also used child soldiers. But so far, the vast majority of casualties have been caused by the Saudi-led bombing campaign. As we continued north, the destruction got worse. It looked like anything that could make life easier for civilians had been targeted. We've seen one blown-up bridge already, and the second bridge we've come across has also been blown. We're told that every bridge has been taken out by an airstrike. So we're just outside Sada now, and every single gas station has been hit. And that doesn't only mean that people can't get around and goods can't get back and forth, but because there's no electricity, it also means that people can't power their homes because they rely on generators for electricity. As a result of this, and an ongoing blockade, there are massive shortages of food, water and fuel. Parts of Yemen are now on the brink of famine. This is an IDP camp. Internally displaced persons, refugees from inside the country basically, have fled from the north.
خوف رعب شديد منتظرين يعني متى الصواريخ يعني ستأتي على رؤوسنا ورؤوس الأطفال في بيوتنا. ما توجدش علاجات مثل الناس. أما نلقى على حاجة خراب هنا يعني نجلس لما حتى تصل على الأوضاع.
We visited one of the few functioning hospitals run by Doctors Without Borders, who were barely able to cope with the influx of starving and wounded civilians.
يا حاولت مرتين ضربت في البنات كانت رافعنا فنا وغمنا مخير طفل ما تعرف قضوب.
She actually came with multiple sharpness in the chest, abdomen, and both leg and face, and gangrenous of the distal part of her right leg, and we did for her amputation.
And were you there when these missiles struck?
أكيد هم ما ضربوا لما وقع عسكرية أكثر شيء هم استهدفوا المواطنين المساكين لا حدا بيهتم بالنازحين صعدوا قدمروها بالأخير بالكامل.
So they've fled their homes because of the war, and then in the IDP camps there's not enough water and food. Is there a breaking point very nearby?
Let's say the front line reach this part here where all the IDPs are. Yes, we will achieve this bridge point where the situation can be defined as catastrophic human disaster, actually.
We continued our journey into northwest Yemen, to the Houthis' heartland. Once we arrived in the main city, Sada, we could see why so many people had fled. Everything has been hit, burned, every single shop. So this is another gas station that was hit. There are 10 of these minibuses that have been burnt to cinders. There are 5 cars and then a truck and another vehicle on the other side of the road that have been just destroyed. And you can imagine exactly how this must have looked. You know, an everyday scene, something that all of us do all the time. The guy here pulls up, the pump would have been just here, people queuing, and then suddenly, bang. The reason there was a queue for gas is because of the Saudi blockade. So they caused there to be a shortage of fuel, which causes the queues, and then they killed 21 civilians trying to get fuel for their vehicles, for their homes, for their livings, to get food. It's obscene. This was the post office, completely destroyed. The roof is pancaked. Oh, didn't even see this. Another huge crater here. These are big bombs. This is a 12-foot deep, 25, 30-foot wide crater. Seems like almost every single local government building's been directly hit, if not very badly damaged. This is a part of a 2,000-pound bomb, which makes perfect sense when you see these craters and the unbelievable damage that's been done to every single one of these buildings. This is the biggest crater we've seen so far, and right next to one of the oldest mosques in the world. Someone just told us that this has been open for 1,300 years, and this is the first time in its history it's had to close. Throughout Sada, many homes have also been destroyed. Abdullah al-Ibi is one of the only surviving members of the family who had lived in this house. Can you think of any reason why your family in this house might have been struck?
أنا لا نقلت ولا شيء، أنا حلاق أعمل. يقتلون أبرياء وهم نايمين، إن حقوق الإنسان، والسعودية تقصف ولعلهم بالغ.
How many of your family were killed?
27 نفس، 27 نفر، من أسرة واحدة.
What's your life like now, day to day?
أنا أصبحت الآن مشرد في الشارع، حياة جحيم، بل هي أشد من الجحيم نفسه.
In the once thriving but now deserted marketplace, we found one man searching through the rubble of his coffee and spice shop.
And
who do you blame for this?
سلمان مجرم تنمية وعدو الوطن كل الأوطان الإسلامية عدوها سلمان.
Schools, World Heritage Sites, aid organizations, and 4 Doctors Without Borders medical facilities have been struck. If that weren't bad enough, the Saudis are also dropping bombs that most of the world has said should be banned. Bomb frag blue 97AB. So the yellow cylinder would be underneath, and this on top to act as a kind of parachute. And then a shell opens, 50, 100 feet above the ground, maybe higher. And then these disperse over a wide area. And the idea is they all go off when they land. But the problem is that they often don't. And, these are attractive to kids, which is the problem. They pick them up, and that's why kids get killed years after conflicts have ended. Everyone is just walking out of the village presenting bits of shrapnel and shells. Shukran. He's saying that 5 of these were dropped. Dispenser and bomb aircraft CBU-87B/B. So this is inside this shell. These are all placed around there, so 8 on each level, and there must be, roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each shell contains 202 bomblets. Most countries have signed an international treaty saying they won't use these, and most countries would say that using these on civilian areas is illegal. And where does Saudi Arabia get most of its arms? They're mostly supplied by the US, who have agreed to sell the Saudis over $90 billion worth of weapons over the last 6 years, including a contract worth $640 million for cluster bombs alone. Despite the mounting evidence of war crimes, the support continues to this day. How many times have you had to hide in here? Every night for 2 months? How about that? Sleeping out here for 2 months straight? Well, cluster bombs are dropped all around you. Officially, the death toll has risen to over 6,000 people, nearly half of them civilians. The actual number is almost certainly much higher. Why do you think this area and your family were targeted? And were there fighters here, or are you a fighter?
لا أنا مقاتل ولا كان بهم قاتلين عندنا. ما أبلع البيوت والعوائل والأطفال والنساء فقط.
Are the jets still flying over now?
باستمرار واصل 24 ساعة.